Hey, what's going on, guys? So go ahead and hit that share button. I'm going to give it just a couple of minutes, see how many people jump on. I want to address a few things regarding the post that I had made here just a little earlier this morning, or I guess be about this morning. So go ahead and hit that share button, hit that heart button, hit that like button, and we're going to get started here in just a second. All right, guys. Well, we're just going to go ahead and get started here. So I want to address the post that I'd made a little bit earlier. Guys, if you know me at all, you know that I am patriotically correct. I'm not politically correct. I think that political correctness is the problem. And so, I'm going to say things that others are going to be afraid to say. I'm going to say things that other people don't want to say because they're afraid of offending a few people. Now, that being said, if you're a veteran, okay, I want you to know that the post that I made earlier was in no way, shape, form, or fashion directed at you. The post was made as a distinction with people that will say that, well, Dan Crenshaw is a... All right, man. Live, what can I say? So there are a few people, I've never met anybody in person, but there are a few people on social media that they're going to support Dan Crenshaw just because he's a veteran. And I kind of understand that, because, veterans should be patriots. Veterans, they serve their country in the military, especially with someone who's wounded in battle. Why wouldn't you want to vote for that person? Okay. So I totally understand that. However, just because someone is a veteran and just because someone served in combat doesn't mean that they're right for Congress. Okay, so I want to make sure that we talk about that, because your career, whatever you choose as a career path, whether it's, say an author or a cinematographer or a musician, right, or a graphic designer, a web designer, whatever, that doesn't always have a bearing. It should be part of it, right? Part of the qualification is, how did you serve people? How did you serve the marketplace, right? But it's not the only one. I don't want people to vote for me because I'm a graphic designer. I don't want people to vote for me because I build great websites. I don't want people to vote for me because some people think I'm a great public speaker. I don't want people to vote for me because I wear a cowboy hat, right? I want people to vote for me because you believe in principles of liberty, and you believe and know that I stand on principles of liberty. Okay, and so I have an absolute love for veterans. So if you are a veteran, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your service to our country. I honor Dan Crenshaw for his service to our country, right? Doesn't mean I like him. Doesn't mean I support him, right? And as a congressman, he's voted on some pretty bad legislation, okay? But we're going to talk about that here in a second. But, you guys, you've heard me say that if we lose our beloved constitutional republic, it's not going to be just because of corruption in the government. Okay, but it's also complacency in the electorate. Here in the 2022 primaries, I kid you not, I'm out there at the polls and I'm talking to them and I'm like, hey, here's a conservative voter guide, because I volunteered, for myself as well as other candidates that I supported out at the polls. You know what they told me? Oh no, I'm just voting red right down the board. Yeah, no way, right? Of course you are. This is a primary. So what that tells me is that we have a lot of people out there that don't even understand primaries. Okay, so for those of you that may not understand primaries, let me explain what a primary is versus a general election. And I'm not speaking at you, I'm actually speaking with you, because I was also that person. Okay, we're told not to talk about politics and religion, and then you're excommunicated by friends and family whenever you choose to do so, right? So we don't really talk about this. The masses don't really talk about politics and religion. And what it's done is it's led to a grave misunderstanding of both. You guys have heard me say that a lot throughout the primaries. Okay, so most people don't vote. Less people vote in primaries. Even less people vote in midterms. 2022 is a midterm. Okay, so even less people voted during the primaries because they don't understand primaries. So if you don't understand primaries, let me explain this to you. So you have let's say that you have 5 Republicans that all want to run for the same seat. Well, in Texas, we have a primary election to where you get to vote for the Republican that you believe best represents you, and then whoever wins that primary goes on to the general election to face the Democrat opponent. So if you were one of those that I came across that said, during the primaries and just said, I'm just voting red right down the board, I don't want you to feel bad, okay? That's the majority of people, okay? But that being said, again, I never talked to anybody in person that said they were voting for Dan Crenshaw, but online on the social medias and the interwebs, whether they're real people or bot accounts, they say, yeah, I'm voting for Dan Crenshaw because he's a veteran, right? So guys, in 2018, whenever Crenshaw was elected, he ran on his veteran status, okay? And I've personally spoken with as a matter of fact, my idea for the post today about Jeffrey Dahmer was given to me by a veteran, believe it or not. So why is it that veterans can say those kinds of things, but people who didn't serve in the military, that we can't, right? Is that any different than other races, colors, and creeds being able to say things to one another that people of a different race, color, or creed can't say, right? Isn't that discrimination? Isn't that rules for thee, but not for me? You know what that sounds like? Congress. Sounds like Congress. Okay. And so again, this isn't meant to offend anybody. Okay. But I'm just going to be real with you, because that's who I am. I'm not a politically correct person. I'm patriotically correct. So just to review, if you're a veteran, I respect you. I love you. I appreciate it's because of you that we get to enjoy some semblance of liberty that we have today. But I'm not going to say that we enjoy liberty today. It's why a part of my slogan is restore liberty, because I believe that liberty has become an illusion. But we're not here to talk about that here today. It's a double standard to say that one group of people, whether it's a race, color, creed, any group, can say something but not anyone else. Okay, and that's just a fact. The post that I made earlier referring to Jeffrey Dahmer being a veteran was not a blanket statement to all veterans. And I don't think that there's one single person that knows me, knows my heart, that took it that way. If you did take it that way, let me just say this. I can see how that can be taken that way. It wasn't very polished. And if it rubbed you the wrong way, I apologize. That was not my intention. My intention was to point out that we shouldn't be voting for somebody just because of the job that they had previous. We need to get to know these candidates. We need to get to know their hearts. We need to get to know the principles that they stand on, the principles that they live by. Okay. So I do want to just talk about, who do you think actually supports our military and our veterans even more? Okay. I mean, let's set aside the fact that Dan Crenshaw is funded by defense contractors for a moment. Of course, he's part of the military industrial complex, in case you didn't know. He's also part of the World Economic Forum, graduated as a young global leader, or named as young global leader in 2019 by Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum, which if you talk to him, he's going to say, no, that was photoshopped. That was photoshopped. But then whenever you actually pull it up on the Wayback Machine, which if you want that, let me know. So shoot me a message and I'll send it over to you. Maybe I'll post it in the comments below. But on the Wayback Machine, he was listed on their website as young global leader. Okay, but let all that stuff aside, let's talk about some legislation that he's voted for. And I want you to answer the question, is that really pro-military? Is that really pro-America first? Or is that putting America last and putting our military unnecessarily in harm's way? Okay, so let's talk about how he voted in 2019 to renew FISA and the Patriot Act and the unwarrantless illegal spying on American citizens. Okay, so just a couple months back, maybe a month or so, a couple months now, Mar-a-Lago was raided. Okay, and Crenshaw got on, I think it was CNN. Wouldn't surprise me if it's CNN. You wouldn't find me on CNN. But he's on CNN. He's talking about how that's overreach and an abuse of power. But can he really say that whenever he voted to renew FISA and the Patriot Act? And he actually mentions FISA by name. Okay, I never would have voted to renew FISA nor the Patriot Act because it goes against liberty. It goes against our privacy. Okay. He also voted to slap red flag laws on the military in the National Defense Authorization Act of 2022. Now, thankfully, that legislation was stripped before it was fully passed, but he voted yes on it whenever that legislation was still written in. Okay, so here's a veteran that is voting to slap red flag laws on the military. That would have gotten a no vote from me because red flag laws are unconstitutional. But then he's going to turn right around and lie to you and say he's never voted for red flag laws. He's never supported red flag laws, despite he coming out with a tweet where he's actually talking about the TAPS Act and red flag laws. He's also going to talk about legislation that he's written to ban red flag laws. We don't need legislation that bans red flag laws. We need people in Congress that are going to repeal bad legislation and people that aren't going to virtue signal with legislation that somehow they think is going to override the ultimate piece of legislation of our government and of our country, the Constitution of the United States. We don't need to ban red flag laws. The Second Amendment already does that. We need people in office that are gonna support the Constitution and vote according to the Constitution. No secondary or level or third level or second level, fourth level, whatever legislation is going to fix that. We need people that are going to abide by, that took an oath to defend and protect the Constitution, to actually do so. Okay. Just this year, the fiscal year 2023 National Defense Authorization Act, he voted to fire active service members for refusing to get the jab. So let me explain how that works, okay? So he voted yes on the overall piece of legislation, and people are coming to his defense and saying, well, he never got to vote on that. And that's half true. Because whenever you go look at the amendments, he didn't get to have a say in the amendments because that wasn't his committee, okay? But that's beside the point, because the amendment that would have removed that legislation from the bill was not passed. It would have gotten a no vote for me until that amendment was passed. Okay? He chose to vote yes on it. So again, who sounds more pro-military and pro-liberty? Me, who would have voted no, because I do not believe that if you are serving in our armed forces, I do not believe that you should be forced to put a foreign object into your body or else. Apparently Crenshaw does. Who sounds more pro-liberty and pro-military? Pro-veteran. He voted to send $40 billion to Ukraine. Right? We're $30 trillion in debt, guys. And that doesn't even include the $200 trillion in promised benefits that we have. We are in so much debt. And guys, the common working class person can hardly afford to go out and get gas, hardly afford to buy groceries. But yet, let's send 40 billion of your tax dollars to Ukraine. That's not America first. That's putting America last. And now, well, we're on the brink of World War III. Remember, he's funded by defense contractors. Last thing I'll talk about here is HR 550 to fund a federal vaccine database. Now, he'll come out and say, I never did. As a matter of fact, I have a buddy of mine that lives out in Huffman. He actually confronted him and said, man, how can you vote for this? And he goes, oh, I didn't vote for that. He says, oh, really? Pulls out his phone, pulls up the bill, shows Crenshaw to his face the bill that he voted yes for. And he's like, nah, man, I never voted for that. And then later he puts out a video and says, you know, Republicans are lying to you, saying that I voted to fund a federal vaccine database with $400 million. And then he goes on to kind of twist what it is. No, it was a federal vaccine database. But the thing is that it already existed. It wasn't brand new. And he voted to fund it with an additional $400 million. Does that sound pro-liberty to you? So let me just wrap this up. with saying that sometimes what I say is not polished. I'm not a politician. I'm a regular, average, ordinary citizen that's fed up, that's decided to get off my butt and do something. Because if we don't, we're going to lose this country. And so sometimes, yeah, my words aren't all that polished, especially when I'm in a rush, whenever I'm still having to work to put food on the table. Sometimes I don't have time to sit there and try to, be soft and tickle people's ears and be politically correct. I'm not going to do it in many instances. And in this case, maybe I made a mistake, maybe I didn't. But the one thing with 100% certainty that I will leave you with is that if you are a veteran, I love you, I appreciate you, I honor you, and I respect you enough that I would never vote your liberty and your money away. And so if my last post, if you're a veteran, my last post offended you, I do want to apologize because that was never my intent. However, sometimes we have to say and do things that brings attention, sometimes outside the box. I don't have $9 million, right? Crenshaw raised roughly around $9 million last year. My campaign, we raised $45,000. That's it, $45,000. We only had 3 months to campaign because of redistricting. That's it, 3 months to campaign against Crenshaw. But you know what? All of you, because if it wasn't for all of you, there's no way that we could have done what we did. We still got 17% of the vote with only $45,000 and only 3 months to campaign. Guys, that is nothing to shake a stick at. We went up against millions. But I say that to say that sometimes we have to say and do things that's going to bring attention if we're ever going to have an opportunity to vote these rhinos and these globalists and these communists out of office so that we can restore liberty and preserve America. Love you guys.